growing up as the son of a pastor, it was, I never, there was no talk about, reincarnation or the work that I do.
Right.
I mean, that I'm involved in.
Yeah.
There was none of that. But it was, I would say, growing up in the church, I can understand now why my soul would have picked that.
Yeah.
Just because of course, this is a Western society, mostly Christian based, and it helps me to be a bridge between the Christian realm and the spirituality.
Yeah, oh, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But prior to even getting into that, you tended to walk a fairly normalized life and educational system and
absolutely.
Career. Can you tell me about that?
I was right inside the box.
Yeah.
I loved growing up in my small town.
Yeah.
It was, my friends would kind of tease me of being outside the box.
Really?
But
in what way?
Never spirituality, just really odd, in a Monty Python humor kind of way. In fact, that was my favorite show as a kid. Outside the box kind of humor, outside the box anything, really.
Yeah.
But I had this draw to go to India, but here I was 24 years old, and what drew me to India at that time, what I thought was, because I heard all these interesting, funny stories from India, it reminded me of a Monty Python skit.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, and I found that when I first arrived to India, I was with a friend traveling at the time, and about 4 a.m, we crossed the Indian border, and I get off the bus with my passport, and the first thing I know is here's this man with long matted hair and paste on his face, and he splashes me with water, and he throws flowers on my face and in my hair, and then he's holding out his hand, saying something, and I'm not sure what he's wanting, but then the border guard who's stamping passports just said, "Oh, he just gave you a blessing. He wants you to give him some rupees now." So that was like a normal, everyday type of occurrence in India. That was my first minute's introduction. But while I was there on that first time, I was traveling around 3 months there, and I decided to work for the Mother Teresa Home for the Destitute and Dying. And I went there not knowing what to do at first, my first day, and the man said, "Oh, why don't you go sit with this man over there? He's dying." So I went over and sat with him, and he was talking to me and in a local dialect that I didn't understand. I tried to tell him, "I don't understand what you're saying." He was talking in Bengali, but he didn't matter to him. He was just kept talking, and he held out his arms, and I grabbed his arms, and then he just died right in my arms.
Oh my gosh, that's profound.
Yes, I was 24 years old at the time, and I'd never been that close to a dead body before. I guess I'd seen my grandparents in a casket, but to have someone be alive talking to you, animated. Then when he passed, it became so clear. There was something that stamped in my brain. Who or what he is not the shell right now that was now becoming cold and hard and stiff, which we later took this body and carried it through the streets and threw it on a burning pyre. That wasn't him. What was that light energy and consciousness? And that began to turn some wheels in my head, and thoughts of Einstein when I think the theory of conservation, that you can't ever really, you don't ever destroy energy. You take a bag of garbage and burn it. You just convert that into a gas, and so the energy and consciousness went somewhere. And what was that? Who or what he was? That really lit a spark in me, being with a man who passed right in my arms, because it kept turning that thought, we're not these bodies. Of course we're not these bodies. We are that light and energy and consciousness that is animating our bodies. And in a few years after I got back, that was when I read a book by Michael Newton called Journey of Souls. And that is when I realized I spent my 20s not knowing what I wanted to do. I knew more what I didn't want to do.
Yes,
Rather
I
than
understand that.
Rather than what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But finally, when I read that, oh, that's the work that I want to do. Michael Newton he wrote that book, Journey of Souls, but it was all about helping people connect to that higher part of themselves. That book is what really shifted me.
Yes.
And I just stumbled across that book just as I was getting into grad school, marriage and family therapy. And that was such an intense program at UW Stout for 2 years that I didn't have any time to pleasure read. But as it so happened, one of my supervisors there, or one of my professors, I should say, did past life regression. So he and I really bonded and connected. And in fact, I wrote my master's thesis called Exploring the Effectiveness of Past Life Regression. And
I bet that hadn't been done before.
Oh no, I don't believe so. And it was great. The program director said, oh, just write a thesis on what you're most passionate about. And this is just a requirement to show that you know how to do research. And I thought, oh, this could, both my advisor and myself were really excited about doing this master's thesis. So it was a questionnaire survey to people that did past life regression to help measure the effectiveness. But beyond that, it was a huge research project of studying and learning about past life regression. And so I did that just at the tail end of this program. And so when that program was finished, I was at this crossroads. Well, should I do this marriage and family therapy? But I really felt pulled and guided to continue the learning of not only hypnotherapy, but then past life regression. And then after that, I was able then to do some training with Michael Newton himself.
Wow.
Before he retired. And I feel really blessed.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So bringing it up to today, what when somebody walks through your doors, what are the tools that you offer them?
I like to tell people, come to the session with that which a feeling or a thought pattern or an emotional pattern or a belief that is most getting in your way, that you most would like to get rid of or let go of, ideally, if you could. So people can come with that. And sometimes past life regression is the best route to take. Sometimes, though, it's better just to tune into that feeling or that anxiety, whatever it might be, in the body, and then interview it, really letting your consciousness be focused on that and interview it. Where did this come from? What is the fear beneath the fear? And from there, we can do some quick resolution often.
And that's not involving hypnosis.
It's not. You do get, when you focus on a feeling in your body, in that moment, you're present, fully present with the sensation, and then you are in enough of a level trance that you're able to access your subconscious mind. It isn't formal hypnosis, but you are in a light trance-like state.
Maybe this is a good time to define what hypnosis is and what it isn't.
Yeah. So when we do that, you're actually in a light state of hypnosis. A definition of hypnosis is a bypass of the analytical, critical thinking factor of the conscious mind. And so I tell people, anytime you've gone to a movie theater and you're so caught up looking on that screen with that movie, when you're so caught up in the movie and that you hardly notice the people eating popcorn near you, you've just entered a state of hypnosis. Because you're so focused on there that you hardly notice anything around you. And if you weren't hypnotized while you're watching a movie, you would watch a movie like this. You would say, well, that man kissing the woman, they're not really in love. They're just actors. And besides, this is just light projections coming from a booth. It's not real. It's not real. Yeah. That's your analytical, logical mind coming through. And that would not enable you to relax get into this trance-like state to really enjoy the movie. And so it's important that that analytical thinking mind needs to be bypassed when you're doing the deep internal healing work.
Sure.
Or doing past life regression, because you have to be anchored in the present moment in order for the information to drop in from this higher intuitive aspect of yourself.
But if we carry the metaphor of the movie forward, it would also be true that you remain in control of your faculties, your free will.
Mm-hmm.
So you could remove yourself from the process if you chose to.
Absolutely.
So I would assume that would be important.
Absolutely, because that's the thing. Hypnosis is probably one of the most misunderstood words, because most people, when they think of hypnosis, they think of these Las Vegas comedy shows where people are clucking like chickens.
Exactly.
and doing funny things. And that always, of course, gives the viewer the idea that, well, are they somehow asleep or not in control? But the truth is any one of those people, if they really wanted to, they could snap out of it and say, oh, I'm going to go sit down. Yeah. But hypnosis is something that you allow yourself to be hypnotized. Mm-hmm. You allow yourself, and you have to be a willing participant. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. And so, but no matter how deep you go, at any point in time, you're still awake and aware and in control. And it's so important to know that beforehand. I have to, a lot of my clients will come and they've never done hypnosis before, so I have to re-explain what it is, and that you will be awake and aware and in control. Even if you're, no matter how deep you go, you can, and I often will tell the story of the experience of a man who was doing a life between life session, and he was having communication with his wife who had passed away 5 years ago, and they were really tight. And so there was tears of joy, and they're having this communication back and forth. But even in the middle of all that, he could open his eyes and say, Eric, I need to use the restroom at the end of the hall, and come back, and then come back, and within 30 seconds pick up right where he left off.
We're fascinating, aren't we?
We sure are. It's just a state of consciousness that you're accessing, and that's essentially what it is.
So can you give me an example? I mean, that was a beautiful example of the gentleman being able to have conversation with his wife who had passed. But can you give me an example of someone who has come into your office with a particular issue and who has left in a different form?
Oh, well, I have thousands of those examples, but the one that's dropping in right now in this moment is a woman that came to me in her 60s, and she came because she had tears in her eyes. Her mother had passed away, and she just said, I just need to know that my mother loved me. I just need to know that my mother loved me.
Yes.
And now I know that there's no words that I'm going to tell her that's going to really convince her, because she wasn't sure of that deep down. She wasn't necessarily made to feel very loved growing up.
And it was impacting her life.
And it was impacting her life, yeah. We got into this state of hypnosis, and we did this guided journey to a past life. She saw a life where she was very well-to-do, was in England somewhere. And she had many children, but she had a special bond with one of her daughters. And she said, this is a beautiful life, there's nothing to want for. But then as we moved ahead in time, in the next scene, that daughter that she had a special bond with passed away. And the rest of her life, she had this guard over her heart. She was grieving so much, she never got over that. And when that life was over and she went into the soul realm, she could see that she had regrets in that life, that she wasn't able to be with her other children in the way that she would have liked to have been. She said, I really loved my other children, but I really couldn't express that. And then it clicked in her head, that's exactly the way my mother was in this life. She was going through so much of her own inner traumas and her own issues that she didn't have the capacity to be fully present with me in the way I needed her to be. But she really did love me. And when that session was over, she just had tears of joy rather than tears of just fret. And then I got a letter from her 3 weeks later, and she said, that session changed my life. Now I know that my mother loved me. And knowing is, I don't know any other word of how to say it, but I know that she loves me. And that's what I most needed. And so past life regression is all about going within and getting something that you need. And your own higher guidance system will show that to you. And it works automatically, almost by default. You're going to see something that's going to help you move forward, grow, and evolve. And I always thought, why does that happen? How does that happen? And then one of my clients was talking to their guides, and their guide said something so profound. And I remember thinking, gosh, I've been trying to find a way to say this for 15 years, and you just said it in one sentence. They said, just as the body's instinct is to breathe, the soul's instinct is to grow and evolve. And so since we are that eternal, indestructible soul being, it's what's shining out our eyes, it's what's animating our body. We are that. One day we won't be our body, but try as you might, you can't not be your soul self. You can't separate yourself from that part of you that is whole and complete and eternal and indestructible. That's who and what you are. And that part of you is very interested and invested in your body and mind personality, getting on board to no longer have to live from any fears or limiting beliefs that hold you back. So you can be darn sure that as you go within, your higher guidance system or your higher mind is going to show you something that can help see through some negative thought patterns or beliefs or fears that are holding this body and mind personality back. And it's all about helping you get an experience of what it would look like and feel like and be like to fully thrive without any limiting beliefs holding you back.
You are now a member of the Community for Higher Consciousness.
Yes.
What led you or drew you to that group?
It's what my work and life and passion is fully about, is helping people raise their awareness to not only know but have an experience that you really are this eternal soul being, having this human experience that has, as Lao Tzu said, unimaginable resources at the core of your being. And so to help people experience that in each session I feel like I'm the luckiest person alive. And it's a passion. And what I really feel blessed about in my work is that every day, maybe twice a day if I do a couple of sessions, I'm helping people to see their life and their struggles and the earth struggles through the eyes of this eternal part of them. And that has really helped me to do the same, see my life and my struggles from that higher vantage point. And there's such freedom with that. And that's the gift that I really want to help people experience in each session that I do with them, to help them experience that inner sense of freedom and higher perspective, higher consciousness. Because then it feels as though problems can find solutions with just a perception shift. Freedom is a perception shift away when you're looking at it from that higher vantage point.